This is the Fakeshemp.net podcast. My name's Glenn. I'm joined by Jarrett.
And we're here to talk about 2019, the year in cinema, as well as the last decade of cinema. Cue the old intro, Glenn.
First you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow.
You've got 3 seconds for it.
I'm gonna amp this baby up, see how it sounds.
2019, it's been a massive year of films. Been a lot of good stuff this year. We're going to start with the best of the year.
I think so. I think what we do is we give the people out there our number one film.
Yep.
Then we hold back the other 9 until early in the new year. Because I've got to catch up on a few films. There's like Parasite. I still haven't seen it yet.
Neither have I.
You haven't seen it either?
No, and
It's
I
still
kind of,
showing.
I feel like it should be on my list.
Yeah, I feel the same.
So I'm glad you said that. I also went on a radio show recently, and a couple of my top 10 list picks didn't quite go down too well because they might be released on New Year's Day.
Right.
You know, and plus I also included Apocalypse Now, the Final Cut.
Yeah, that's fair, though.
I was told I couldn't.
No, you totally can.
Okay, well,
Because if it's a new cut
That's what
of
I
an
said.
existing film and it's been released in this year's theatrical,
Yep.
absolutely.
That's what I said, but I have removed it from my list anyway, just to avoid any kind of
Right, that's
confrontation.
understandable, man. So we're basically giving everyone the burger with no bun. So you're just getting the meat. This is the meat. This is the big one. So do you want to kick us off with your number one film of the year?
Absolutely. My number one film of the year is a very underrated little film. It's called Wild Rose. You saw this one too.
I did.
Yeah?
I went to a screening. Same screening as you, I think. We went to a critic screening of it.
Absolutely. And it's a musical drama. It's British. This has been a big year for sort of jukebox musical films. You know, a lot of music-orientated films have come out. I guess it's the flavour of the time. And I think this is by far the best of them. It's essentially about a young, aspiring country singer, sort of from a projects area in London. Sort of, I don't know what they call the projects in London, but, you know, it's sort of a welfare class sort of area.
Absolutely.
And she's gone off the rails. She's sort of a bit of a drunk. She's a bit of a party girl. She's essentially abandoned her child, left her with her mother. Really wants to be a country singer, but doesn't have the real get up and go to do it. And in saying that, everything else in her life has been ditched, ignored for her dream. It's almost like it's not a rags to riches story by any means. It's almost like a rags to rags story. You know, like
true.
the way this story goes. There's a lot of personal development and growth going on. Anyway, it's definitely the best film of the year. I connected with this one on a very, very strong emotional level. It's the character. I hated this character.
Oh, absolutely.
I hated her.
Absolutely.
But even from start to finish, I didn't find that there were too many redeeming qualities about this girl whatsoever.
Right.
But I liked that about it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I like that frustration when you don't connect.
The underdog
Yeah.
story, but you don't actually have to be,
Yeah.
you know, loving the person. You just, you watch their plight and you back them, but you don't have to love them.
And when your emotional connection with a film isn't necessarily the traditional positive emotional connection that most people have with any given film, I love that. You know, we watched a film very, very recently where I was talking to you about how I was emotionally frustrated and suffered anxiety watching these characters, but it's that emotion that really hammers it home for
There's a
me.
lot of cringe moments in the film too, which sometimes play against expectation. There's a scene where she's in the car of like her employer's husband, and you think it's going to go one way and it goes another way, but it's equally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just it kind of keeps working on your nerves throughout, you know.
Yep. And look, none of this is spoiler territory by any means, but
No.
like this girl is given so many second chances. You know, she's given these opportunities to redeem herself over and over again, and she just squanders it every single time. She completely just throws away one opportunity after another. And I think that's another thing. I was so angry watching this film. I was really angry, but you know what? The music in it is brilliant. I'm not a massive country singer, you know, country music fan, but this music is really, really on
It's
point.
great.
Yeah.
It's great. And who do you know who wrote some of the music for the film?
No, I don't, to be honest with you.
Is
I
it
feel like I should.
Mary Steinberg? Is that her name? The actress?
Yeah.
She wrote...
Oh, Mary Steenburgen.
Steenberg.
Yes, I had heard that.
Yeah, no, she has, yeah. There's a great video on YouTube where she talks about writing the music and everything of that nature. Very cool. Very cool.
I had read that and forgotten all
I
about
was
it.
going to
That's
say, because we did see this movie, it came out on home in around September.
Yep.
And I think we saw it back in June or so
Yeah.
at the screening.
yeah, no, that blows my mind to hear that again because I just erased that from my memory.
Yeah.
It's also
and great cast in it too. Like Julie Walters turns up as Rose's mum.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the main actress in this one, I'm trying to remember her name. I think Jessie Buckley, is that?
Yeah, Jessie Buckley.
She's fantastic, and she recently popped up in Judy, the Judy Garland film. She was
right.
Judy's assistant,
Right.
and I hope this actress has a longevity in her career
Yeah,
because
she's choosing some great roles because she was in Beast, I think maybe 2 years back as well, which was a very unusual
forgot about that
genre
film, yep.
drama film. So yeah, she's a real talent
do
to
you know
watch.
this one, Wild Rose, was the first thing I've really noticed her in.
Yeah,
So it feels like it's a bit of an announcement of a potentially big actress. I hope she really takes off. But it's also directed by a guy called Tom Harper.
Right.
Now, this guy before Wild Rose had done that sequel to The Woman in Black,
Oh, what, The Woman in Black 2?
Angel of Death.
That was awful.
Yeah, but that was his film.
Right.
He did The Borrowers in 2011, which I think was like a BBC style production.
Right.
And a few other films that really haven't resonated, but he does have a brand new one coming out called The Aeronauts,
Okay.
which I believe is an Amazon Prime original.
Right.
So-
right. He's directed a bit of TV too. I think he did like Peaky Blinders and some
Right.
other sort of British fare.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, that's my number one. What about you?
Well, funnily enough, mine is a musically sort of orientated film as well. It's not Blinded by the Light. I did quite like that film.
Ooh, I did not.
He didn't. No, it
No.
slipped out of. I think it slipped out of my top 10 to be honest, but I did really, really dig it. But my number one's actually from New Zealand. It's a film called Daffodils, which I caught at the Melbourne International Film Festival back in August. But this is a film that I've kind of had this bit of a weird relationship with because it came out in cinemas in New Zealand when I was in New Zealand working on a film. And I really wanted to see it, but I knew it was the type of film that I should see with my wife. It is I'll tell you a little bit about the film, but I'll just tell you a bit about my story with the film. Anyway, I held off seeing it, and then I was back in New Zealand for another film. Unfortunately, it had come out on home end, but I bought the tickets for MIF, so I figured I won't buy the DVD. I'll just go and see it in the cinema. And I saw it in the cinema with my wife, and I'm so glad I got to see it on the big screen, immersed with surround sound, because it was just an incredible experience. The only thing I can say is I wish they wouldn't turn the house lights up so fast because I was an emotional wreck after the movie finished. And that's not really a spoiler as such, but it's a bittersweet love story. And it is. You see the start, it's told with this sort of wraparound of the daughter that's sort of leading the story through song and narration about how her parents first met and how their relationship sort of came apart at the seams. And it's just beautiful because the lead actress, Rose McIver, who was in iZombie, I think was the WB series, she's just incredible. I think she's just so charming and, innocent and beautiful, and she's just a gentle soul.
She really embodies like a 1960s right through to 80s kind of persona.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Yeah, this film is period set, so you are going through those eras from the 60s right through to present day, and it's incredible. There's a montage sequence in it too, where they kind of flash through years within the decade, and for me, the production design and costuming was A+. Like, looking at that stuff and replicating that period without going overboard, they did it really, really well. But yeah, it's just so moving, and music is an integral part of the film, and all the songs that are featured in the movie were all like, iconic New Zealand pop songs from those eras, and those songs have been re-recorded by Kimbra, who is actually the daughter that's providing some of the song and narration throughout the film and acts in it too. It's the first time she's acted in a film, and I think she did an incredible
She's fantastic.
job. So she does all the music, most of the singing in the movie and on the soundtrack, and it's with an outfit that she's got called Lips that was formed, I think, just for this film. And then Rose McIver and the male lead in the film, George Mason, they do all their singing parts, and they've got terrific voices as well. And I just get completely lost in the music. I've seen the film 3 times, but I tell you what, when I ran my Spotify, most played whatever thing of this year, this soundtrack was right up there with some of my favourite bands like the Get Up Kids and Death Cab for Cutie. And yeah, I just completely fell in love with the movie. Unfortunately, though, post-screening at MIF, where it played 2 sold-out screenings, the local distributor of the film, Transmission, sort of made the decision not to go theatrical with it in Australia. I'm not entirely sure why. So it will only be coming out in Australia in February of next year on home entertainment, and only on DVD, sadly, which you know, for me is a bit of a heartbreak because I'm a massive 4K
Yeah.
enthusiast. I didn't expect it to get a 4K release, but at bare minimum a Blu-ray. But look, the DVD does a good enough job, and there's plenty of special features on there, a few featurettes and that are really interesting. But
That is a real shame that
yeah.
it's not going theatrical because it's a beautiful film. And
great
just
film.
before when I was talking about that other film that I was emotionally connected to, that was this one, and it was an hour ago. You
Absolutely.
showed this to me tonight.
yeah.
And it blew me away. Like, I'm now reconsidering my top 10 and
I'm
trying to
glad.
figure out where I can crowbar it in because
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It is, once again, a bit of a jukebox musical, as you said. But it's hard to explain what it's like. I guess there's an element of Grease in there, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
towards
absolutely.
the start with the 60s stuff.
Yeah.
But also, I'm thinking a little bit of Across the Universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a little bit of Wild Rose, maybe even some Blinded by the Light.
Or even some of your other favourites, like Once or something like that. with
Absolutely.
That, you know,
Once is a good one,
tied in.
yeah.
It's sort of such a hard film to describe too, because yes, it is a musical, but it's not your typical type of musical. They do break into song, but it is all tied within, you know, the context of the
It's
film.
lyrically
Sometimes-
connecting,
Yeah,
yeah.
lyrically connecting into the narrative itself, and at times song is used to convey, you know, the subtext of feeling, like what you're actually going through without ever saying a word.
There was a
being
fantastic
sung.
moment, without any spoiler whatsoever, where there's something going on screen, but he's singing,
Yes.
but in the moment, he's not. Like, it's hard to explain.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
they're doing something, these two characters
Absolutely.
are interacting, but there's words coming out of his mouth that are in musical.
Yeah.
But you know he's not. Like, it's
Yeah,
very
it's-
complicated to explain,
and
but
it-
when you watch it, you're like, wow, that's very clever.
It's done really well. It's like really seamless. Like having worked, you know, on editing over the years, I don't even know. Like at the moment, I'm working on a trailer edit for a film, and that is challenging as it is trying to tell someone else's story in a condensed 2 to 3 minutes sort of thing. Especially when the film's non-linear, that's super difficult. But incorporating all of this, like you've got the drama, you've got the music, and you've got to tie it all
Yeah.
and make it sort of seamless and not take people out of the movie to go, oh, hang on, you're singing again, or hang on, I don't know what's going on. And it's just masterfully
Well,
done.
usually you'd add the music later.
Yes.
But they've filmed this with the music in mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was thinking that as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, how did you orchestrate this?
Mm.
Because there are scenes where it'll go for 3 minutes without a cut, where
Yeah.
they're talking, doing this, doing that,
Yeah.
and suddenly one will break into a song, midway through the song,
Yeah, of
stop
course, yeah.
again, interact, and then the other one will pick up about 2 minutes later.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
same song. It just blows my mind how they
incredible.
put this together.
It's incredible.
And we should also talk about, like, the aspect ratio was delicious. It
Oh,
was
it's great.
so
It's
good.
full CinemaScope, so it's just magnificent. And you see so much of the New Zealand countryside as well as, you know, the Hamilton Botanic Gardens there. And it's just shot beautifully, graded so well.
Yes.
We were talking about the grade on it.
The
And
colour
they kind
grade's
of
great.
bring a bit of element of like almost Technicolor about it at points in time.
But it's like Technicolor with a very slight washed out quality to it to
Yeah,
give it a
yeah.
sort of a time frame,
Absolutely.
you know?
It sort of augments certain elements. And as the movie progresses, you sort of see that shift as the colours. Like you can kind of see what the 80s look like, what present day looks like. And it is a contrast throughout, which is really, really cool. So the fact that, you know, the director David Stubbs, and this being his first feature film,
Yeah.
has accomplished that with the cinematography is a real feat. And one thing I did want to mention, it began as a book, then that book was adapted into like a stage musical, which is quite popular in New Zealand, and it's even come to Australia to tour. It was here in Melbourne back in maybe 2015 or so, and then since it became this movie. And now this movie was actually really big in New Zealand. It was like when I was there, you couldn't escape the posters. They were everywhere. And the film was in cinemas for weeks. Even when I went over that second film, when it hit DVD, there was posters for the DVD release around. So, yeah, it's just heartbreaking to think that this thing that happened, you know, only 4 hours away on a flight,
Yep.
isn't kind of going to get the eyes that it needs here. It may be one of those films that in time will end up on a streaming platform
Yep.
and find its audience there locally. But I really hope that it's embraced overseas and that we, you know, maybe it gets a good run in the States or the UK or something. Like the UK seems like it would really suit them, I think. Maybe
Yep.
not less the United States, but more the UK. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything more I can say about Daffodils. I know there is, because I could talk about this film for days. I talk about this film so often that people are convinced to buy the DVD from Mighty Ape from
Yeah.
you know, New Zealand to
Yep.
get it to Australia to watch it. And look, if I haven't sold it enough for you, February is an awful long time to wait. And if you ordered it from Mighty 8, you could have this thing within a couple of days.
And where can you find Mighty 8?
You can go to our website and you can actually go through, and we'd love you if you would do that, because any referrals we do helps us produce this show. So please support us and support Mighty 8.
Fakeshemp.net. should we maybe talk about some more bets, but let's go through the decade.
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
We're
2018.
We're at the end of a decade, man.
I know.
This
I don't know.
is
It just crept up.
It did. So we've done 2019.
2019.
All right. So 2018. You can go first.
Okay. Well, 2018, I'm going to go with Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. I love Phantom Thread, and it was a real comeback movie for P.T. Anderson for me, because I hadn't been a fan of his Inherent Vice. I really did not like it. I've watched the film twice. I will watch it a third time because I'm convinced there's things I like about it, but on the whole, I just don't like the film.
Yeah, right.
The Master, I have a bit of a love and hate relationship. I think there's some incredible scenes in the movie, and I think it looks magnificent.
Yeah.
Joaquin's performance and Philip Seymour Hoffman's performances are phenomenal, but I just don't love the movie. It's been a long time. Like Punch Drunk Love was, There Will Be Blood, which is one of my all-time favorite films.
Well, I haven't liked this stuff since Punch Drunk Love. That was the last great film he's done.
You didn't like There Will Be Blood for you? No.
No.
This is very similar in tone to There Will Be Blood. It's very much.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if anyone else out there hasn't seen it, that's exactly what it is. And that for me was a good thing, because I kind of went, oh, thank God he's kind of gone to tell a story in this way.
Yeah.
I was so confused by Inherent Vice. I knew what was going on, but I just found that my mind was drifting to other places. Hang on, what is going on in this movie again?
Yep.
If you want to see an infinitely better version of that film, see Under the Silver Lake. That is a much better hipster sort of detective story. You didn't like that?
Not really.
That's one of my favourite films this
I
year.
know,
as well.
it blew my mind when I heard that.
Wow, you didn't like that much?
No.
Okay, well that's
You
all
can
right.
read my review if you want to.
Oh, you got a review for that one, do you?
Stack magazine.
Stack. Yes, that's right. No, I will have to read it. But yeah, Phantom Thread, I'm not going to go through the synopsis of this film because we'd have to do it for every one of these films.
Yep.
So, crossing over to you, your favourite from 2000?
Yeah, it's a film called You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, right,
it's a film that's infinitely better than The Joker. It's it's the same kind of gritty kind of atmosphere and ambience to it, Taxi Driver-esque.
Yes.
All about a guy that essentially rescues a girl from an illegal brothel.
Yeah.
There's a whole sort of sex trafficking ring going on, but he does so in a very beautifully violent manner. It's very, very low-key. Feels like an early Scorsese film.
Yeah.
I just like the dank, dirty kind of atmosphere they conjure in this one. I like his character. It's very similar character to Joker, to be honest with you. He's very reclusive and antisocial and all that kind of stuff. He has former experience, in the criminal world. He knows how to be violent in the right ways.
Yeah.
I won't go into it.
But he's still got heart, because it's not a major spoiler. There is a scene where he basically kills someone, but then he's there to sort of see them through to the other side. And it's like a really moving moment. And you're like, he's got a humanity. Obviously, he's got a lot of humanity about him because he rescues this girl. You know, and that becomes his sole mission, Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver.
He's very
really
focused.
Wants to do it.
Yeah.
Director Lynn Ramsey, though, she's incredible. She did We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is one of my favourite films.
It's a great film.
Incredible.
It's a great film. So this one just blew my mind. That was going to be my number one from the second I saw it. So shall we move on?
Yes, sir.
2017.
2017, you want me to kick this off?
Yep.
2017. Right. Well, for me, there is no doubt it is A Ghost Story, the David Lowery film.
I knew you would say
of course
that.
It is. I've seen this film now 4 times.
Yep.
I've seen it twice in the cinema. I saw it as soon as I got the Blu-ray, and then for my birthday this year, I said to Danny, we have to watch A Ghost Story, and she was cool with it because she loves it as well. But I tell you what, I think A Ghost Story is possibly my favourite film of all time. Isn't that weird? A film that was produced in 2017 is possibly my all-time favourite film. I adore this movie.
If you could see my face,
every time.
If you could see my face, this is not a visual medium. My jaw is dropped. That's a big call.
I know. It just every time it speaks to me in such a way that I can't articulate.
It's beautiful.
I'm just so moved by it, and I just love the journey of it, and I just get caught up in the scenes. When you watch a film, sometimes you would just love to jump in the frame.
Yeah.
Just to do, just to be in that moment. And that's this kind of
Is
film.
that kind of like the Gemini Man effect? Because you just jump in that frame, like.
I haven't seen the Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Did anyone? Oh,
Well,
yeah, no, that's right. The critics, because they hated it. I'm gonna.
They
catch
jumped
up
right
with
in.
it. Yeah, I got to catch up with that one in January.
Don't-
Actually, what's that funny story about that movie? I remember you said it to me about Gemini Man. That he shot it at like whatever it is, like the accelerated frame rate, 48 frames per second, and then when the film's being released in the US, no cinema can play.
Yeah, something
yeah.
like that. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was me that told that story,
I
but
feel
I
like
have heard that.
I think you told me, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the irony!"
Yeah.
you're basically creating something new, and then the medium you've created it for, the cinemas, they
Too
can't
much,
even
too
play it
much.
as it is. Yeah, incredible.
Anyway, that I'm sure that film will come up later on when we discuss some worsts of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ghost story for me, man. I love it.
Hands down, that's a great choice. It is a beautiful film. Mine would be The Big Sick, which
Oh
was
yeah, of course.
look, I can't even remember the name of that lead actor, the guy that's just taken off. He's from
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. He's recently in Stuber.
I love
I
Stuber.
feel ashamed that I've come to this podcast without prepping that information.
Yes.
But the film itself, Ray Romano's also in it. Just a really, really earnest, beautiful kind of dramatic comedy about an interracial relationship. The girl becomes very ill, and it's all about him sort of becoming part of this family that's sort of not culturally savvy.
Yeah.
But also dealing with this very heavy situation with the girl that's sort of... She's in a coma, I think, for most of the film.
Yeah, yeah.
And the banter between him and Ray Romano, who Ray Romano's trying to become sort of, educated in,
Yes.
interracial things. And there's some great lines in there. Particular favourite is when Ray Romano asks him what he thinks of 9/11.
Oh,
And he turns around and says it was a very tragic day. We lost like 7 of our best men. Best line in the whole film. That one really did it for me. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
It made me cry.
a great film.
It's definitely worth a look.
You know what's weird, actually? I just realised I saw The Big Sick and A Ghost Story the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went to a preview screening of both of the films on the same day, and it was like the best because I went with the wife, but another friend of mine and his partner came along, and they loved The Big Sick, and they're not so down with the art house sort of films.
Yep.
And I remember thinking during the pie eating scene of A Ghost Story, oh, what's my mate think of this? And then the minute we walked out, he's like, how about that pie scene? And it's like, could that have gone any longer? But yeah, I saw both those films. Now, I want to mention, too, The Big Sick was actually... Is it based on a true story?
Yeah.
Because it's the lead whose name that we can't remember. I feel like we should be looking this up. I feel like his name's... starts with a K.
Oh, don't.
But yeah, anyway.
Don't guess, because you could
No,
fall
I
into a
know,
very deep
exactly.
hole
and
if
I'm
you do.
never great at pronouncing anyone's names. But it's based on his wife. Like a real account of him and his wife.
See, I've
and
got
she
it-
wrote the screenplay.
I've got his name in front of me, but I'm too scared to say it.
We can't pronounce it, can we?
Kumail, that's his first name.
Yep.
Nanajani?
Yeah.
Kumail
Yep, that's
Nanajani?
it. Yep. I think you've nailed it, dude.
I almost fell into a Daryl Midkiff kind of...
Damn Mitkiff.
you go back to another podcast to get that reference.
Yeah. There's not many podcasts where we covered anything that Dale Midkiff was in, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find that one. So moving on, 2016, Glenn, do you want me to kick this off?
Yeah, we'll just go back
All
and
right,
forward.
yeah, it makes sense. Otherwise, I'm just going to put you on the spot.
I don't mind, either way.
Anonymalisa. I mean,
Oh,
I
yes.
raved the hell out of this film back in 2016.
You sure did. And I don't think I had seen it when you were raving about
No,
it.
no.
I then went and saw it, and I agree
Yeah.
with you. It's brilliant.
Such a great movie.
It's not my number one, but it's brilliant.
It's a great movie. Yeah, it's for me, and again, this is another comeback movie. Like Charlie Kaufman, hadn't really done a lot for a while. I think the last thing prior to that, from memory, was that Cynic Doc New York, maybe, and that was like a decade before, possibly.
And that was a doozy. That was a...
Yeah, I wasn't super
tough
enamored
one.
with it. Yeah, I wanted to love it because it
Yeah.
was really clever, but it just wasn't
Yeah.
terribly entertaining.
I agree.
Melissa was just phenomenal. And it was co-directed with Charlie Kaufman as well. The other chap, I think, is a guy that had come from a more animation sort of background, which makes a lot of sense. But just a really incredible story and incredibly moving as well. Again, I think that's another movie that when I watch it, it just hits that emotional note for me every time.
Well, the irony of it, of course, is that I don't think any other film has captured the human condition quite as astutely as an animated film.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful film.
Ridiculous, incredible. And of course, you've got those insane moments where Charlie Kaufman just goes into the most bizarre territory that you could imagine. The sex doll,
Yep.
the toy Japanese sex doll thing, insane. But there's a beautiful moment with Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, Lisa, when she's singing Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but singing it in Japanese. I know French. Maybe it's in French. I can't remember now. I need to revisit it. But admittedly, I have seen it like 3 or 4 times, but I'm well overdue for it. But moving on to you, 2016, what was your...
Well, there are no surprises here. Everybody Wants Some.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah,
Classic film.
the Richard
Great film.
Linklater spiritual sequel to Dazed and
Yes,
Confused.
yes.
This film just had me from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think I was probably 10 minutes into this film when I knew it was going to be my number one.
Yeah, right.
Something
right.
about it, I don't know if you recall it. It opens up. It's a frat house kind of movie. You
Yeah.
know, it's like a throwback to, I guess, Animal House. Even this
Yeah.
college. It's the last week of college before exams, and no one's studying. They're all just partying hard.
Yeah.
But it starts off with all these mates in a car traveling down the road, just singing a song together.
Yeah.
But the Linklater lets them sing the whole song. It's not like you
Right.
just get a little montage or a
Yeah.
snippet. They go from start to finish, and it's
Yeah.
just sensational. But the film's funny. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit tender. I like it more than Dazed and Confused, which
Wow,
a
that's
lot
a
of
big
people.
call, yeah.
I've copped a lot of shit for that, but
Cool.
I don't know. I just find this one is paced so much better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the characters are far more. They're far more fleshed out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it just does it for me. So that would be my 2016.
Cool film.
What would be your 2015?
2015 for me was David Robert Mitchell's It Follows. Another film.
Yeah.
Like, how much do I remember that you can go back and how I talk about this film
Yeah.
non-stop and use any opportunity to bring it up. But It Follows. Look, everyone's seen it. A lot of people like it. Some people hate it. I still think it's a brilliant
I love it.
work. It's so good. It's just so suspense-driven. The mystery about it, the score, the performances. It's a tight film that still puts me on edge every time I watch it. Like, I've seen it multiple times. I know what's going to happen, but the score and the building of tension, everything just gets me every single time. And yeah, I just love it.
Yeah, I was on board from that
Yeah.
that from the get-go. It was a great film. Very John Carpenter-esque.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah. So my 2015 would be Mad Max Fury Road.
Of course.
Yeah, which I still would argue is possibly the greatest action film of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I just think it's a masterwork. Artistically, it's better than all the other Mad Maxes.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it is the best Mad Max, but I think
Right.
I think technically and artistically, you could argue that this is the pinnacle of the action genre. To be honest
Yeah,
with you,
right,
the
right.
amount of practical in this
Yeah.
that is just mind-boggling. Like you
Yeah.
can't even comprehend how they would do this unless you saw the behind the scenes on how they
Yeah.
did it. I think the disappointing fact is that Mel Gibson didn't come back because I think that would have really tied this one in brilliantly to the whole saga.
Totally.
Having said that, Tom Hardy's pretty good.
Mm.
He's not the main character, which is good. Even though the films are called Mad Max, it's never really been about him, other than the first film.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's about he's got to get from A to Z, and everything is incidental. He just finds himself in these situations that he just wants to get out of, and so it's more the story around him that's important. This is the same thing. Everyone was complaining at the time that this is, Charlize Theron is the star, and this is all about these women. It's not about Max. And it's like, well, the third film was about kids. It wasn't about Max.
Yeah, totally.
And same with the second film. Like, it's just
Yeah.
one of those things. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant film, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
And how did because I never saw it, but I assume you did, the black and chrome
Yeah.
version of it. How did that play?
It's shit. You can,
really? Yeah.
I have a review on Fakeshemp if you
Yeah.
want to go and have a look. The black and chrome is very wanky. It's very distracting. I think you take all the colors out, you lose the magic of the film.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's such a heightened coloured film.
Yeah. And I mean, he argued at the time that I always wanted to do a black and white film. It's like, well, I think this is more gimmick than anything.
Yeah.
But it's not black and white. It's black and chrome, which means
Right.
that the blacks or the whites in it are more silver.
Right. Okay.
Silver and black.
Yes. Yes.
And it just looks really jarring to me. I
Yeah.
got maybe 45 minutes into it and I just couldn't do any more. So yeah, anyway, gorgeous stuff. Let's go to 2014.
2014, sir. Look, my favourite film that I publicly declared my number one in 2014 was Grand Budapest Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
However, not that I dislike the film. It's just on repeat viewing of the movie, it didn't quite hold the same
That
value
happens,
for me.
yeah.
And I still enjoyed it, but I think at the time for me, it was a bit of a comeback movie for Wes Anderson because
Yeah.
I hadn't been a big fan of Moonrise Kingdom. I did like The Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Life Aquatic, there were moments. I do really like that movie.
Mm.
Darjeeling Limited. See, I didn't like that film the first time I saw it, but upon repeat viewing that, I actually think
Yeah,
it's a really solid.
It's a
movie.
good one.
Um,
I find that with all these films that they
Yeah.
don't necessarily resonate with me right from the get-go, but
Yeah,
the
but-
revisit factor is huge.
Totally. And if you come back that second, like I came back from Moonrise Kingdom, I couldn't get through it. Like
Really?
the first time I didn't love it at all, but I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it.
That's his most accessible for me.
You know, his most accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely his most accessible movie. But for me, I just, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. But Grand Budapest Hotel, you know, I do like it, but that's not my favorite film of 2014 anymore. My favorite film of 2014 has moved from somewhat number 7 to number 1, and I have probably watched it maybe 4 times since seeing it theatrically. It's actually Kevin Smith's Tusk.
Right, so we could have just said Tusk from the start.
I know. I wanted to talk about the Grand Budapest Hotel.
I'm so glad you said this because I was having a
Yeah.
conversation with someone the other day. I don't know how, but Tusk came into it,
Yeah.
and I said to them, Tusk is one of those underrated gems. It's like a film
So
that
good.
deserves far more recognition than it did.
Absolutely.
And I went so far as then to say, in fact, I think Yoga Hoses is the same. I think the
Oh god.
no, dude. When I first saw Yoga Hoses, it was the worst film of the year for me. Like I
Absolutely, yeah.
hated it with a passion, right?
Yeah,
And
right,
I
right.
ragged on it.
Oh.
And you know what? I reckon I've seen it 10 times now.
And you
Each
like
time
it?
it gets better and better.
I will give it.
There is
another
something
viewing.
about this one
Yeah.
that just grows on you, and
Right.
I love it. But Tusk,
Yeah.
I think, is just
It's an incredible film. I think
Stunning.
we both did reviews of it when it came out theatrically
Yeah.
on the Fakeshemp.net website, and I think we both did pretty glowing reviews of it. But yeah, it's just, I think like Kevin
appreciates.
Smith did such a great job. Yeah, he actually directed a horror film
Yep.
that had his elements of humor about it. But it's just such an incredible film. And again, hits an emotional chord with me.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, there's a moment that really hits an emotional chord with me.
and that rather gratuitous moment where Fleetwood Mac come into it singing
God.
Tusk is just
Yeah.
so good. When that
Oh.
came on, I thought, man, I'm in a movie right now. Like this
Absolutely.
is just working for me on every level. Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful film, and I'm
Yeah.
just I really want the third one, Moose Jaws, to come
I know
out.
he's got to do it. Surely he's got to do it.
He
Now that
can't.
he's done this new Jay and Silent Bob film, hopefully
He's come this
he'll-
far. I think Yoga
Yeah.
Hoses really was a nail in a coffin for this series, but
Yeah,
man, give that another go. Like it's
I will.
Yeah,
I definitely need to revisit.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of magical.
it's Kevin Smith, and this for me, Tusk was renewed faith in Kevin Smith. Going, oh, this guy can direct more than.
Mind you, Red
you know.
State had come before it, yeah.
I did, but I didn't love Red State. I thought the premise was brilliant. I just don't think the execution was there for me. I felt like it was a little bit rushed and under budgeted.
Yeah, fair
I thought
enough.
the build was incredibly tense and suspenseful.
Yeah.
But then it just felt like a bit undershot, under budgeted when the whole siege and storming and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I
didn't
loved
really
all that,
work
but
for
I
me.
get where you're coming
I
from.
need to rewatch it. Michael Parks are brilliant. I mean, Michael Parks are brilliant in Tusk.
Yeah.
You know, rest in peace. But yeah, and Justin Long, man, I haven't seen Justin Long in much of late. I actually really like Justin Long. He
Yeah,
needs to do
same.
more movies.
He really
if
does.
you're listening, Justin, do more movies.
And come on our podcast.
And please do. So 2014 for you, sir.
Yeah, it's a documentary called I Am Big Bird,
Oh, I still
which
haven't seen
couldn't
this.
be any more fitting because Carol Spinney recently passed away.
Of course, only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's essentially I Am Big Bird is a documentary all about Carol Spinney, who is the guy inside the yellow feathered suit. He's also the puppeteer of other characters like Oscar the Grouch and whatnot. It's just a really beautiful doco. I like these sort of docos. They did the Bean Elmo one before it.
Right, yeah.
And they also did not that it's from the same makers, but the Life Itself, the Roger Ebert
Oh,
documentary,
yes.
came out the same year. That was very close to being in my
Right,
top
yeah.
5 as well.
Yeah.
I love these things that touch upon elements of our childhood with
course.
affection, but it just really highlights these really kind-souled human beings that dedicate their life to educating children and
Yeah.
bringing joy into the world. So that film just hit me in all the feels, and
Right.
yeah, I don't know if it's the best film of the year, but by far my favorite.
I think that's all that matters.
Yeah.
It's your favourite film.
Yep.
So now moving on to 2013, Glenn.
Which I think this
Yeah.
is the year of Fakeshemp's inception.
It was. This was the year that I joined the
Yeah.
the Fakeshemp team, and Justine was with us in 2013.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. So
from
this is
memory.
going right back to the birth of Shemp, really.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Cheap thrills for me. Again, I think I talked your ear off about this movie when it came out. It's a Pat Healy, the actor whose name I can't think of that was in the movie Dutch, aka Driving Me Crazy.
Ethan Embry. Yep.
Ethan Embry.
I still
and-
haven't seen this one. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, you've gotta see this. It was available through Mad Men on DVD. But
So we've come
maybe
so
out of
far
print.
that it's deleted now.
It's probably out of print. It's probably out of print. No doubt it's on a streaming service. It would
Yeah.
have to be, but it's just a very cheeky comedy thriller, and it's just insane. Where it goes, you wouldn't expect, but like you really will not expect. And I think it was written and directed by E.L. Katz. I don't know if it was his directorial debut. I think it was definitely directed by him. But yeah, it's just an incredible movie, and I'm well overdue to see it again. Now, who else was in it? The chap from America, Anchorman, that's in, the bald chap that's in
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
That guy, and he's in The Goods,
Yeah.
so fast.
We should note at this point in
guy.
time, we're so far down the list, we haven't got notes, so we're just sort of
we're just
spitballing.
riffing. It's all riff. It's all riff. Particularly when we're talking about Big Sick, all riffing.
Yep.
But yeah, Cheap Thrills, man, 2013, my
Cool.
number one film.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen it.
Gotta say, I reckon you will love it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, mine is a film that you know well. It's called What Maisie Knew.
Oh my god, I love that movie. We were only just talking about that the other day.
Yeah, because it's a very similar film to Marriage Story,
Yes.
the whole Kramer versus Kramer type of
Yes.
thing about a child that gets stuck between a nasty divorce.
Mm.
And the film is from the child's perspective.
Yeah.
It's the breakup of a family unit from a little kid's perspective. And it's just heartbreaking. It's beautiful. I went to see it at the cinema. It had a very limited theatrical run.
Very
but
limited.
films like this don't even get theatrical runs anymore.
it's
So,
true.
and I didn't just see this in the city at an art house cinema. I saw it like locally at like the Croydon cinema, like my little local. So,
Yeah.
we've come a long way, for
Yeah.
better or worse, where
Yeah.
things like this just don't hit the mark anymore. But yeah, beautiful film. If you really got into A Marriage Story, the recent one, you want to check this out because it is just something
Julianne
beautiful.
Moore and Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Before
Just,
Skarsgård was huge.
Yeah, it might have been around the True Blood era.
Yeah,
but before
maybe
he really took off as, say,
before Tarzan.
cinema type actor. Yeah, before Tarzan, which was actually quite cool.
I love
I
Tarzan.
thought it was enjoyable.
I think that made my top 10 that year.
Yeah, it's understandable. I was hesitant, and I saw it, and I actually really enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So moving down to 2012. 2012 was an interesting year looking back on it, because I looked through, I know I obviously had a top 10 for 2012. I couldn't locate that top 10, so I had to go through and look at all the theatrical releases for 2012. And it was a pretty uninspiring year for me. to be
Having
honest,
said that,
looking at
I've
it.
got a tie.
Well, okay, that's going to be interesting, because there were two films I really loved from that year, and
Yep.
I ultimately just went with the one.
Yep.
I can't even remember what the other one was now. But the number one is Ruby Sparks, which I just thought was
Yeah,
a
is that
really
Paul Dano?
clever Paul Dano, and I can't remember the actress's name. But yeah, very clever story about a writer who literally writes this woman into existence, and when she doesn't, when she gets more personality of her own, he constantly tries to rewrite her within an inch of her life.
It's very Philip Kaufman kind of
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very, and it's funny, it's heartfelt, and it's incredibly clever. And yeah, Paul Dano, it was terrific to see him do a role like this, because he'd gone from doing, There Will Be Blood, and then popping up in bit parts like in Mission Impossible 3 or 4 or whatnot. And seeing him sort of play this lead in this film was terrific. And of course, he's gone on to amazing things since like Swiss Army Man.
Yep.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
But Ruby Sparks, really, really cool film. And from memory, I think it may have been the filmmaking duo that did Little Miss Sunshine. I should have done a bit more research on it. But hey, we've delved all the way back to 2012. Ruby Sparks.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got a tie here. I'll touch upon one and then talk about the other. One was Killing Them Softly, which was the Andrew Dominik film with
Yes,
Brad Pitt
yes.
and Rose Byrne, and I think Ben Mendelsohn was in that one as well. This was Ben Mendelsohn just as he was breaking into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Just a really gritty kind of film. Andrew Dominik is the guy that made Chopper, but the other one is Michael Haneke's Amour.
I never saw more. That picked up I think it picked up the big award in Cannes that year too.
Yeah,
Might
most
have won
likely.
Palme d'Or.
The accolades were coming at it
Yeah.
left, right, and centre. But Michael Haneke is actually one of the first sort of, European/foreign kind of filmmakers I got into as a teenager.
Yeah.
Even before film school, like, when you'd watch SBS and things like that.
Right,
And he
yes.
made a film way back then called Benny's Video, which
Oh, God,
as
yeah.
a teenager, nothing
Yeah.
influenced me more than this one. Like, Benny's Video was where it's at for me.
Yeah.
And so I kind of followed his career as he went, obviously funny games and things like that. But Amour is possibly his most sincere and earnest kind of film. It's a really beautiful story about an aged couple
Yeah.
and one suffering from dementia. and it's all about how to, one looking after the other, and what happens when they forget you, the love of your life, doesn't remember who you are, but you're still there for them every step of the way. It's just heartbreaking and tragic. It's a heavy film.
I'm really interested, but it's about finding the right time to watch a movie like that and planning what you're going to watch immediately afterward to pick your spirits back
you
up.
need to pick me up, but even like if you recall the poster itself or the DVD cover, it's got this old woman's face, right?
Yeah.
And she's staring at her husband. You can't see the husband; it's only the back of his head. But she doesn't recognize him in this image, right? And he is just sort of projecting love upon her, but she's not reciprocating, and that's the essence of the film. Like, can you imagine? Yeah. Anyway, so that one is a soul-destroying kind of film, but life-affirming at the same time.
2011, my friend. 2011.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, my number one film is Jason Reitman's Young Adult.
Oh, wow.
I love it. Written by Diablo Cody as well. Remember Young Adult with Charlize Theron? Is
this the one that got completely savaged at the box office and critically?
I think it might have done all right critically.
Isn't this the one that only did like a few $100 box office in America?
No. This one did.
Was that Motherhood?
No, that would have been Motherhood because that was pretty much direct to DVD here. I think
that's right.
The one with Uma Thurman, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Young
my
Adult.
bad.
No, I think Young Adult reviewed pretty well.
Okay, cool.
And it was a turnaround film for me with Charlize Theron because I always thought she was a good actress. Don't get me wrong. But seeing her in this movie completely transformed my opinion, and I think she's one of the greatest actresses of our time. Yeah, she's just phenomenal from strength to strength. Like obviously from Mad Max Fury Road to Young Adult to most recently Bombshell that's opening January next year.
Plays an uncanny Megan Kelly in this one.
Glenn, you sent me those photos, and I'm like, oh my god, it is uncanny. But she's such a fantastic actress. And Jason Reitman, he's a filmmaker who I'd enjoyed his films like, Thank You for Smoking, and there was another one before this as well that I can't remember now. So I've been watching him quite closely, but this was the film that really, put him on the map for me. The one before that was the George Clooney one, In the Air, I think it was.
Oh, Up in the Air?
Up in the Air, which
that's
the
good
first
film. I
time
like
around,
that.
I didn't
With
love.
Anna Kendrick.
Yes, Anna Kendrick, and I can't remember who the other female lead is in it. Oh, it's
Vera Vergara.
Yes, Famira.
Yeah, Conjuring.
And going back and rewatching that film on the strength of how much I loved Young Adult, I really love that too. And I've loved everything Reitman's done, even when it's not completely brilliant like the last film he did, The Front Runner. I find enough value in it. Actually, the last one might have been Tully, because then I can't remember if Tully or Front Runner came where. Anyway, regardless, I love this guy's work. I'm very excited about Ghostbusters, but if you haven't seen Young Adult, you have to see it. It's just incredible. Like, it really is just such a... It's funny, it's a little mean-spirited, and it's just fantastic. Yeah, it's great. And it's really, in your kind of field of films, it's about, that homecoming.
Yeah.
She's been a successful, young adult author. That's where the title comes from, writing young adult fiction books. And she has to come home for a funeral. And so when she comes back, she's kind of like catching up with people that she hasn't seen. She's got her old flame. And in coming back to town for the few weeks that she's there, she really turns everyone's life upside down and knows that she could just pick up and go back and leave at any point in time. A really great film.
Well, as you inferred just then, if you've listened to me for long enough or you've read enough of my reviews, you'll know that there are certain genres or subgenres that I really gravitate towards. One of them, obviously, Homecoming. The other one being coming of age.
Yes.
I love coming of age films, which leads me right into my 2011, which was Super 8.
Oh, of course.
Which is the J.J. Abrams / Steven Spielberg production about the kids that film a train wreck and inadvertently film this whole alien invasion kind of story. This was on the cusp of this whole new, I guess, wave of 80s nostalgia.
Absolutely.
Stranger Things kind of... I think Stranger Things have riffed off Super 8.
Undoubtedly.
Really, really gratuitously. It's just a brilliant film. I get into an argument with a specific person that I work with about this one. They think it's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Right.
And I can't comprehend that. And I know that person's listening to this, so fuck you. This is a brilliant film.
Has that person ever been on our podcast?
No, they haven't. They haven't, but they listen to every single one of them.
Right,
so.
that's good. That's good.
Anyway.
But you mentioned that it nails the period and with subtlety. It's not super nostalgic or like Stranger Things or those recent, movie outings. it does the period justice.
And where the nostalgia comes from is that it is Spielbergian, right?
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
But we've got Spielberg on board, right? So there's that. Like, he's already imprinted on this film, so it's not like they're stealing from him or anything like that. But it harks back to sort of E.T. in many ways, and practically all of those adventure films that Spielberg made in the 80s, and it's just a really, really authentic kind of sci-fi film. It does a little bit of the found footage thing, which was sort of on its way out at the time, but then did away with it halfway through, and it became a massive monster movie. Just brilliant. So, Brendan, if you're listening,
named and shamed. 2010. For me, it was Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh.
And it was a weird one because I remember seeing it. Obviously, this comes after he'd done Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz before he did The World's End. And
may I just interject for 1 second?
Right.
Are you listening to this, Brendan? Because he argues that that's also one of the best films ever made, whereas I would say it's one of the most overrated films ever made.
I love it. And I saw it theatrically the first time, and I was a little like, there's a lot going on. And it's not what I thought it was going to be. But I immediately rewatched it when it came out on Blu-ray, and I just completely got it and fell in love with the movie. I just love it. Like, I just think it's just wildly entertaining. It's ridiculous.
I wish I could love it.
The music's fantastic. And it's just really fun. And then since then, Edgar Wright went on to do The World's End, which was pretty disappointing.
Very disappointing.
And admittedly I haven't gone back and rewatched it since seeing it the first time. In fact, I've owned it on Blu-ray now and on 4K, so I probably should watch it because I keep buying it.
I kind of reckon you should.
But then obviously it's a real comeback with Baby Driver. But Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It's a huge nostalgia wave, particularly video games, sort of iconography, comic books. Similar sort of music stuff that I grew up on, a lot of pop punk sort of stuff of that nature, but just a lot of fun. And that's all. That's all I got to say about Scott Pilgrim.
Cool. Well, I've got another tie, and
Right.
I don't know which one to focus on the most. I'll just mention them and we'll see where it goes. But Toy Story 3,
Yes,
I think that was a beautiful conclusion
Incredible.
to the original sort of saga.
probably my favourite in the.
Well, number 4 is now my favourite. I
Right.
think
Oh,
number
really?
4 was just an amazing film.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
However, at this point in time, 2010, I think Toy Story was about the pinnacle of animation in general.
Definitely.
Like, it really had a lot of heart. Like, I've been saying that a lot about my films, that there's always a lot of heart in the films
I'm
I
always
choose.
saying they've got an emotional.
It's-
Emotionally. so-
Clearly, that's what I gravitate
Yeah.
towards. So, Toy Story 3 hit me in the feels as well. But the other one was Four Lions, which was a really little British film
Yes.
that took on. This is like 2010.
Yeah.
Right? So, we're hot in the era of like anti-terrorism,
Anti-terrorism,
and this was a
yeah.
film that focused on terrorists in a very, very satirical and
Yeah, it
humorous
was,
way.
Yeah, that's it. It was at the heart. It's a comedy, and you're like, who would have thought that you could have got away with making that?
I still can't believe, like, you probably couldn't these days.
No,
The
I
racial
think it's-
profiling would be
yeah,
just unacceptable.
absolutely.
But essentially, it's about these Middle Eastern terrorists running around London trying to kill as many people as they can, but they fail in every kind of way. Right?
Right.
Everything goes wrong. So it's almost a Monty Python-esque kind of lampoony kind of thing, and it's just damn good. Like, I can't sing its praises enough.
It was funny actually because I was working with JB Hi-Fi back in those days. I was working at their support office in the movies department, and when they had their annual DVD conference, which they used to do, get all the buyers in from all the different states across Australia to have the suppliers present, their upcoming product and whatnot. That was, from memory, that was the screening they did in 2010. Was that, and we had some unusual screenings some years. But that was a really cool one because it was the right audience for it. But yeah, it had a really mixed reaction with regards to it. The worst one they did was Monster-in-Law, which was Jane Fonda's comeback movie. I don't know,
Shocker.
nobody wanted to watch
Robert
that.
Luketic,
a bit of
Melbourne
me wants to
director.
watch it. Oh, of course, they did Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, not a great film. Definitely not a great film for that conference. Here's a kicker, though, is I had a bit of a say in chasing a film for the conference one of the years, and I was pushing super hard for American Ultra.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought it looked kick-ass, and Max
It wasn't.
Landis had done some cool stuff. And it wasn't. No,
No.
and no one dug it. And afterward, they were like, "Oh, that was a great film, Jared. Great work on that one." I was like, "But on paper, it looked good."
If the trailer played well.
And it should have been good, but yeah, it wasn't. But geez, that wraps our decade.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about next?
So let's bring it right back to 2019. Let's talk about maybe some of the worst films of the year.
Absolutely.
Should we talk about the disappointments or the actual worst, or both?
Let's kick it off with the worst. What was your worst film of 2019?
Without a doubt, there's an absolutely fucking shit-ass film called Reflections in the Dust.
Oh, this is the Aussie one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Now, this I know had a lot of local support behind
Yeah,
it and whatnot, but I absolutely deplored this film.
Wow.
In
yeah,
every
it's-
way, shape, or
You
form.
can get it on Stan now, I think. It's on streaming on Stan. And maybe
Bet
in
they
World
paid nothing
Movies.
for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the business would have been involved with the film in terms of getting the sale. I know that Stan's got its affiliation.
You're giving
with
it too
World
much
Movies
mic
and
time,
that.
mate.
I know. I won't give as much mic time to my one, though. I swear by that. My worst film of 2019, hands down, was Hellboy, the new adaptation of Hellboy,
Wow.
which is Neil Marshall's Hellboy.
So was there any redeeming qualities to this? Because, I mean, I've seen it. I think it's a terrible film too.
Yeah.
But the one redeeming thing I can find in it is just the gratuitous amount of violence. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I enjoyed that.
Gratuitous violence. I mean, it's unfortunately quite a bit of it was done with CGI, like post effects and not practical.
Disappointing.
But just painful. You know, I was bored by it.
Yep.
Everything looked super rubbery and fake. I just had no investment, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be, you know, to the standard of the previous films.
Yeah.
Del Toro's films, but you know, and I heard this was going to be closer to the source material, which is all fair and good.
Yeah.
But it was just painfully boring and ridiculous and not entertaining. I don't know. It was just so flat.
Well, it's completely fair enough.
You know, and the lead chap, I think David Harbour,
Yep.
I think it is, from Stranger Things. It felt like he was pretty much playing Ron Perlman's Hellboy anyway.
He was channeling that kind of thing.
And it just didn't work for me in any way.
Like,
And it's
just
one of those films I will never watch again.
And having seen how absolutely colossally bad this film is, why would they have chosen this new direction and not retain Perlman for a third film? Like,
Absolutely.
why not make this a sequel to?
Absolutely.
Just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, change director, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, Del Toro was for years trying to get the third film up.
Yeah,
Years.
and I'm sure it would be infinitely better than this.
Undoubtedly.
I don't
But
get it.
For him, it's great because, look, he's moved on. He's done The Shape of Water. He's got a new film coming out next year.
Yep.
He's been able to produce a lot more stuff. This year he produced Scary Stories Tell in the Dark,
Yep.
which is a very, you know, sort of more directed at a teenage audience. But
Yep.
I had a thrill with that. It was a hell of
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Well, the books of that were teen books.
Yeah, it's like Goosebumps with bloody edge. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like this is not even gateway. You're through the gate with this one.
Yep.
You're really in its world. Yeah, I was really impressed with
Cool.
that.
Well, so we just reel off a few other worsts without
Yeah.
much discussion, then discuss some disappointments.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
What else do you got?
Well, I've got Velvet Buzzsaw.
Oh God, it was horrible.
Yeah, terrible.
Horrible.
I've also got Three from Hell.
Yeah.
I think it was fucking awful.
Well, you know, I can't say too much.
No.
No, I'm
But
gonna
I do.
stay
I'm
out
sorry.
of that one.
Um,
I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie's work in general,
Yep.
outside of Devil's Rejects, and I didn't mind his version of Halloween. More so the work print version, not the director's cut.
Moving along.
Or the
Okay.
theatrical, maybe.
It Chapter 2.
Oh, It Chapter 2. Awful.
Yeah. Awful. And The Hustle.
I like that.
Yeah, I know you did.
I like The Hustle.
They
I
are
thought it was
my
alright.
they are my worst films of the year.
I haven't bought it yet. I hope it's in the 2 for $30 because I'll pick that up.
What are some of your worsts?
Dead Don't Die. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, what a tremendous waste of talent. Not that I expected much, but for Jim Jarmusch to go and do a zom-com
Yeah.
when we've really got past that. Like, I mean, Zombieland is probably up, like, along with Shaun of the Dead, are the best zom-coms. He tried to do some weird sort of, you know, existential thing and constantly push this whole message of looking after our environment, otherwise it's going to come back to bite us, you know, the fracking and all this rubbish. And it just was boring.
It's kind of like an OK Boomer moment. It's like this
Yeah.
old guy's just cottoned onto a new craze called
Totally.
zombies, and he's like, "Oh, I'll
Yeah,
have a crack
I'll
at
have a
that."
crack. And it's sad too because he did such a great job with last Lovers Left Alive, maybe, or something. I can't remember what it was now, with Tilda Swinton, which was, you know, his vampire film, which wasn't really a comedy, but it's always got those shades of his humour about it. But this didn't have his shades of humour about it because it was just so overt.
He's
and
always
dumb.
been a great filmmaker to me, but I agree.
Incredible
I agree.
filmmaker, but this was a dumb movie.
Yeah.
And I was painfully bored. And I went to see it at MIFF because I'd heard bad reviews about it, but I had to see it for myself. And yeah, painfully disappointing. And just a tremendous waste of so many great actors.
The ensemble was amazing.
It's incredible how many people are in this movie, and it's just shit.
Any others?
I don't know, man. Like, I've seen some shit this year.
Well, how about what about some
nails it.
disappointments? And the difference being disappointment being stuff that we've had fairly high expectations for that have just disappointed, as opposed to
Right.
being just bad.
Okay, well,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. Look, again, my expectations probably weren't high for it, but I, regardless, was very disappointed. Was the new Star Wars?
Yeah.
You know, Rise of Skywalker. I didn't go in expecting much, but I left feeling like, why did I waste, my time with this particular picture? And for me, that it was kind of the realization of going, do I even really like Star Wars anymore?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, if they release all these films on 4K, I just will buy the original trilogy. I don't care if they're the special editions because I don't know if we'll ever see the original cuts.
Well, I fell off the Star Wars train a long time ago. I don't really have an interest in it anymore. So I went in with, fairly tepid sort of expectations, but was just bitterly disappointed. And for mostly the same reasons as you. I don't think it tread new ground. I think it was completely fan service. Really gratuitous. This is my word of the episode, gratuitous.
Yeah.
There was gratuitous fan service in it.
Absolutely.
Did we need to see those Ewoks? Did we need Lando, at the steering wheel of the Millennium and all this kind of stuff?
Precisely. It felt like fan fiction at best.
Yeah.
Fan fiction with a huge budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let me reel off some other disappointments. For me, Us, the Jordan Peele film.
I loved it. One of my top 10 films of the year.
Yeah, to me it was bottom for me.
I loved it. I actually enjoyed it more than Get Out, which I liked, but I didn't love. But I loved Us.
Yeah, no,
I've seen it twice now this year. So
Yeah,
the films I love, I end up watching a lot.
Don't ask me to get into it right now. I'd need to watch it again to be able to articulate this, but I found a lot of flaws in the whole concept itself, particularly like the revelation and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just how things work within the mechanism of the film. Another one would be Extremely Wicked and Shockingly Vile.
That was.
I think that's what it was called. The Joe Bellinger one about Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
And Joe Bellinger also directed the amazing docu-series on Netflix about it.
That was amazing.
It was incredible.
Incredible.
And I thought, if this is the guy that also brought us the West Memphis 3 Paradise Lost films, right? So this and the Metallica Some Kind of Monster and the Unabomber documentary.
Yeah,
This is a guy that really knows his stuff when it comes to true crime. And to produce a film that really doesn't touch on true crime at all, it gives you like a bit of a prehistory of the character without getting into it. I just had no interest in it. Another one was Gemini Man. I think it was a colossal turd of a film.
Right, yeah.
We've already talked about it. But the other one would be Glass, the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Oh my God, I forgot about that movie. Yes,
Absolute turd.
Absolute. I can't believe I paid premium pricing for that because I wanted to see it in a cinema with Dolby Atmos, 4K laser projection, and it was just so bitterly disappointing. And why does M. Night Shyamalan have to come back into the film and reference his character from Sixth Sense?
Because it's funny, don't you know?
And it's so bad because it was such a minor cameo in Sixth Sense, and then they've made a whole role, it just was ridiculous. Anyway, the whole film was fucking awful.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
I bought it on 4K.
Well, the fact
I
that
bought it 'cause I had to bookend those films.
I think many people would agree that Unbreakable is one of the great films,
incredible,
of all time. Like it's just a really, really clever film. And it was at the sort of the tip of the new wave of superhero films, and then Split came along, and it was good. It wasn't as great, but it joined those together. It felt a little bit tacked on at the end.
It did.
But it worked. And I thought, well, okay, this is going to be interesting with Glass. And boy, is it a stinker. These worlds do not come together well. James McAvoy's character, he was impressive in Split.
Yeah.
In this one, he just goes over and above and absolutely falls off the edge. It's just too many characters.
Yeah.
Having so many characters makes it less of an impressive performance.
I agree. Yeah.
There's just no room for him to actually do anything with substance. Just shit house,
just in general, the whole
anyway.
entire thing, and them trying to bring in some other subplot right at the end of the movie that never existed in this franchise, and you're like, well, why are we bringing this in now? It wasn't a twist; it was just a shocking, whopping misfire.
Yep.
What about Rambo Last Blood?
Well, no, well, see, this is one that this is interesting actually
Yeah.
because I really appreciate people not liking this film.
Yeah, right.
I really get it,
Yeah,
but I really like it.
yeah. Because it's a bad movie. Though.
A mutual friend of ours,
Yeah.
calls it Rambo Home Alone or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My review likened it to
Yeah.
Kevin McAllister's House.
Oh
from
yeah,
Home
that's
Alone.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's stolen your lines.
Yeah.
But look,
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it. I was interested to know where Rambo had come to. I do wish that this one had been in the Homefront script.
Yeah,
Remember that
yeah.
film Homefront, which was
with Jason
supposed
Statham.
that was
Yeah.
supposed to be Rambo back when,
Yeah.
and they
Was
sort
it
of
Jason Statham?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was James
Franco?
James Franco,
James Franco. Yeah.
and they retrofitted it into a new story.
yeah.
That should have been the new Rambo.
Yeah.
But I still like the fact that he was, living out in the ranch. I like that he went to Mexico. It didn't feel like Rambo at all.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where a lot of people had a problem with. This
Yeah.
did not feel legitimately like Rambo. But at the end of the day, it was all about the blood, the guts. It was short, it was concise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had a kick out of it. And I think I've watched it twice.
Right.
Better the second time. And I think it's just one I'm going to enjoy more and more as I go.
You know what's interesting though is obviously we went to a media screening of this movie,
Yep.
and that was a good maybe 2 weeks before it opened in the States.
Yep.
And then when the movie opened in the States,
They lost the...
they cut out 11 minutes or so.
which was possibly...
The prelude bit, which was a
Which-
bit
tacky.
but
But it was the gateway.
yeah,
It was the gateway
It's
scene.
a setup. It's a setup to why his character's at this point in his life, where he is, and what leads.
And
to
it
his
also
next
connects it
decision.
with the first film environmentally. Like,
course,
where
yeah.
he is essentially the same setting of where
Yeah.
we found him in the first place.
Of course, he's out in that terrain. But funnily enough, that version that we got here in cinemas that was classified R, rightly so, they've released it locally on Blu-ray, and it's available in the Blu-ray 4K pack. But the 4K is the US theatrical cut.
What?
Apparently, that's the only way the film's been released anywhere in the world so far on 4K. Is that US theatrical
I'll be honest
cut.
with you, I can't imagine the film without that intro.
Weird, isn't it though?
Because
Yeah.
what do you have after the intro? You're just straight into story.
Yeah, and I think in the States, I don't know if they've got the extended version we did.
Yeah.
Roadshows released that on Blu-ray and as the Blu-ray component in the 4K, but in the States, no, I thought it was going to be a huge marketing thing in the States that they would release on home end as like the unrated director's cut or something.
Well, admittedly, like we said, it's very tacky, the intro, and it's almost laughable. Like the dialogue of him telling them to get on the horse and
and
all
the
that kind of stuff.
production value as well.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, I remember the marketing was covered in these pictures from that scene.
Yeah.
I'm sure in America too, and they must have had people going, "Well,
Yeah,
where's
'cause it was
the cowboy hat?
images.
Where's
Yeah,
the
absolutely,
the
all
horse
these
in the rain?"
images.
And
Yeah, that was the
Anyway.
first image to be released from the film. Was
Yeah.
like him with the hat in the rain.
Yeah.
and it's not even in the American theatrical. cut.
strange, but yeah,
Very
I got a
unusual.
kick out of that one.
I know you dug it, and look, I will pick it up eventually just to bookend the Rambo franchise. But for me too, I just felt like it was a sad farewell to Rambo. Like I think we deserved better.
Well, it was considering that
know.
number 4 was a pretty surprising film.
Absolutely, and I think in fact over time, in my opinion,
Yeah.
the film's gotten better. It's just
Yeah.
a relentless,
Oh, yeah.
bloody action.
Number
movie.
4 is amazing, and I think that's where this qualifies as a disappointment because
Yeah.
even I can concede that because my expectations were built very high after number
Yeah.
4. I thought, well, this Stallone is back at the moment, like
Yeah.
with Creed and all these
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
things.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he's really peaking again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought Rambo he would just deliver home. Given that he's so close to this character too, I thought he'd
Yeah.
really give him a good farewell, a good send off. He probably should have directed it if he wanted that to happen.
True, very true.
You know.
Another one that, again, I didn't have high expectations for, but ended up being one of the worst films I've seen this year, was Playing with Fire, which is effectively it's a family comedy.
I contemplated going to the cinemas this morning to see that, and
I'm
I
glad
thought,
you didn't.
yeah.
And I mean, bad timing for the film to release as well. Like,
Yes.
The film's opened in Australia now, where pretty much every state bar Victoria is being affected by fires. I mean,
the
Victoria's
entire
had some,
entire
you know-
city of Sydney is surrounded by fire.
Yeah, absolutely. They can't get away from the smoke. They're advising people to stay indoors. Children can't
Yep.
go to school and that. And this kids
Play-
movie opens up, so they're not going to make it to the multiplex to see it. But the movie is just so tone deaf, and reeks of direct to video fodder.
So this is like I guess like Pacifier 2 kind of territory, Tooth Fairy
Absolutely,
2.
Tooth Fairy, yeah, absolutely. How this thing
Was there
got
even
to
a Pacifier
cinemas.
2, or was I just making that up?
No, but there should have been. Larry the Cable Guy could have stepped in. For Vin
Kindergarten Cop
Diesel.
2.
Yes, with Dolph Lundgren.
Cop and a half too.
Yeah, come out how many years later?
Yeah.
But Playing with Fire, absolutely terrible film.
Diabolical.
Horrible. Like, I wish I'd gotten up and walked out, but I didn't. Maybe I took my father-in-law along to see it, and you can't just kind of walk out and go, hey, you can only watch half the movie because I'm not enjoying it.
No, you can't. You'd be a
But,
prick.
yeah, I would be, but yeah, I reckon if I had turned to Danny and said, do you want to leave? She would have said yes. But we stuck it out and we watched it. It was just, it was hair scratching.
I gotta admit, there was no real expectation with that to
It
begin
wasn't.
with.
The only thing that for me was, I really like the Daddy's Home movies, and John Cena
Yeah.
obviously comes into play. John Cena's so much of a better actor when he has a bit
I
part.
just don't like him.
He has no personality
I
to
don't
play a
like him,
lead.
yeah.
No, he can only play a character, and when there's a small bit of that, that's okay. But as a lead, zero character. It's like you could stare into his eyes, and it's like looking to the eyes.
I
of a
can't
corpse.
believe that in an end of year wrap up podcast, we're talking about Playing with Fire.
I hope I've convinced you not to go and see it at the movies now.
You
Catch
might
up
have-
with it on streaming.
Might
for
have the
God's sake.
adverse effect on people, dude.
I don't know what else has really disappointed me this year. It's actually been a really good year for movies. I've seen so many good movies in cinemas, on streaming, on home entertainment, at festivals, and 2020 is going to be a whopping year. You've seen some of the films that are coming out
Yep.
next year already. Like you obviously are at Monster Fest quite a bit, so you've seen Color Out of Space, for instance.
Well, that was a point of controversy on my top 10 list.
Right, okay.
Because as it stands, it's still in my top 10 list. Because it's had screenings.
It's true, yeah.
So technically it's
Yeah.
had a bit of a release, I guess, but not
Totally.
an official theatrical release. So I'm in an iron whether to keep it in. Currently, it's at number 3.
Well, if you move it out, you could move Daffodils in there.
Daffodils is coming in. I think Booksmart might drop out
Oh,
in
yeah, right, okay, fair
with
enough.
Daffodils
Yeah.
squeezing in. But
Cool.
I'll ask you.
Have some-
I'll ask you. Does
Yeah.
Color Out of Space qualify for a 2019 top 10 list?
Look, I've got films in my top 10 that I saw at festivals, but I'm almost inclined to push those films, knowing that they're getting theatrical releases at next year. I'm almost going to push them out into next year. To
Okay.
sort of work with that. 'Cause
That's
there's so
interesting.
many good films in 2020 2019 that I can pretty much
See,
fill
because
already.
it kind of balances out because
Yeah.
my number 2 is a film that got released in Australia early in 2019, but everywhere
Right.
else in the world 2018.
Oh wow, okay.
That was
yeah.
The Guilty, which is a foreign
Right.
film.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Rialto might have distributed that, I think. from
Yeah,
memory.
but you see what I'm saying? Like,
No, that
when,
one's fine.
when films get
Australian
released at the
theatrical-
edge,
I think Australian theatrical's fine. Like for me too, if something gets released on Boxing Day, but I don't get to catch it until the following year, sometimes it's a contemplation that I can be included in that because it's in its theatrical
Yeah,
run.
right.
One of my greatest regrets was not including La La Land in my list for 2016 from memory because I didn't catch it on Boxing
I guess
Day or
we need
whatever.
to set parameters, otherwise,
We
you
do.
know.
So I go by theatrical. I mean, in any case, Color Out of Space is coming out February 6th in Australia. Umbrella's releasing it.
Well, maybe I
Yeah.
will push it to next year.
Yeah. I've got like another one that now I'm contemplating moving is Come to Daddy, which is Aunt Timpson's debut feature.
Yeah.
And that's going to get a theatrical release in Australia. Umbrella haven't announced when, but that also means I can free up some of my room in my
Shit,
top 10
man.
again.
All right. Well, Color Out of Space out, Daffodils in.
Excellent. Brilliant. Next year, The Gentleman. That
Yep.
opens on January 1st. We can talk about it now because the embargo's been lifted.
Yep.
We saw this together and we walked out and we were just like exploding in conversation about
Yeah,
this one.
it's great.
It's incredible.
It's a return to form.
Yeah.
It's Guy Ritchie back doing what he did best, with Lock, Stock, and
Yeah.
Snatch. And I actually think this is his best. I think it's
I
sort
think
of
it's his best film.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just gloriously vibrant.
Yeah.
The characters are the best ones he's fleshed out. You can understand these ones.
Yeah.
Do you remember Brad Pitt? You could hardly understand him.
yeah,
That was the
the
point of it.
pikey.
But yeah, no, it's just it's
It just
beautiful.
works because I think it's
Hugh
got-
Grant is
phenomenal.
stunning.
It's like you've seen him do Bad with Paddington 2,
Yeah.
which he did exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But this is next level.
Yeah.
He's so sleazy and deplorable, but
Did
at
you
the
know-
same time charming and awesome.
Do you know he considers his role in Paddington 2 to be one of the best he's ever done?
I reckon, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal.
I do
'Cause
too.
He plays against type. In both
Yeah.
these films, he plays against type because
Yeah.
I'm a massive, Hugh Grant fan. Like,
Yeah.
I love Four Weddings. I've loved a lot of stuff. Even like Lair of the White Worm and things that he's done early in his career.
Englishman went up a hill, came down a mountain.
Yes, I love the title. Didn't really love the movie. I need to rewatch it though. But
I do.
I was super psyched for that movie.
I love it.
And I was a bit disappointed when it came out. I think I just wanted Four Weddings and a Funeral Part 2.
Right.
Up a hill and back again.
Notting Hill.
Notting Hill classic.
Oh, my
fucking
God.
Classic.
Gotta
Stone
be-
Cold classic, in fact.
Oh, Stone Cold. Mate, that would be like top 10 rom-coms for me.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Absolute classic. 1917, we've both seen this recently.
Yep.
This opens January 9th
Yeah.
or 8th or something
Yeah.
like that. Exceptional film. You've definitely got to see it in the cinema because it is an experience
Yeah.
film.
Highly kinetic kind of film. It's just go start to finish. You know, it has this premise of one take. It's not one shot per se, but it's sort of just the camera follows these characters from start to finish, and it's just seamless. And it's
breathless.
it's
It really
amazing.
is. Another one I really like that I saw at Monster Fest that I hope is getting some sort of release in Australia next year will be 1BR, a really cool thriller, apartment style thriller. One of my favourites, kind of like a Tenant or Rosemary Baby or something like that.
Yep.
I think the only films I discussed Roman Polanski films then.
Yeah.
But he's done a lot of those films that are like those apartment complex type thrillers. Like Sentinel even as well.
Well,
I
drop a letter from Tenet. We've got Tenet coming out.
Oh yes, that
Yeah.
trailer looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it does.
It totally looks like a new Inception.
Yeah, new Christopher Nolan
Oh
film,
my God.
and it looks just very, very clever the way these scenes reverse themselves.
I'm like already going. I
Yeah.
don't know what it means, but it's all glorious. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see this in a cinema.
Yeah.
And did you see at the end of the trailer? It's like see the trailer in a cinema now sort of thing. And I'm like, you're got a trailer to advertise the film, but the trailer is also advertising to watch the trailer in a cinema.
Maybe there's
Most
a more
certainly
impressive
will.
trailer.
I imagine that Dolby Atmos would be engulfing. Comes down to I mentioned earlier, Ant Timpson. That one's going to get a release early next year, I believe, with Elijah Wood. Phenomenal movie. What else are you excited about?
Yeah, well, Ghostbusters. I think
Of course,
really
yes.
looking forward to that. I think the trailer is interesting. I think the trailer's clever. I don't think it's giving away too much.
Yeah,
I
great.
think the film will be a lot different to what the trailer suggests.
Yeah, right.
I think there'll be strong connection to the original.
Definitely.
Looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes.
Even though I wasn't a fan of Godzilla 2,
Yeah.
I did love.
I didn't mind Godzilla.
I loved Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
did.
enjoyed the two Godzilla films,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I loved Kong, and I think when
Kong
these
was infinitely
when
better.
these worlds collide, I think it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting. The Witches, I'm looking forward to that.
The adaptation of Roald Dahl.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Do you know who's in that or who's doing that?
Well, Anne Hathaway is in it. I can't
Right.
remember who's directing.
But it's another live action
Yeah.
film. Awesome.
Which
That's
essentially
great.
will probably, I mean, the original's still very magical.
Yeah, it's
I think
incredible.
this will probably have a very similar kind of feel to it.
Excellent.
And what was the other one? Oh, The Profane Exhibit, which
Oh.
I was only talking to your coworker Grant
Yeah.
recently about this one because Richard Stanley directed a segment from it.
Right.
Richard Stanley's the guy that did Color Out of Space. But he had also directed an installment or a segment in the previous film from this series,
Right.
which is called The Theatre Bazaar.
Oh, yes, I remember Theatre
Right.
Bazaar.
So
yeah.
this Profane Exhibit has been sort of shot and in the can for I think 5 years. Never seen the light of day,
Right.
and finally I think next year it's coming out. So
Incredible.
it's
Ah.
extreme horror. If you've seen Theatre Bazaar, you'll know that
Mm.
it pushes the envelope. It's very gruesome and depraved. So this is just more of that.
Excellent. Another one I'm excited about, which I can tell you why I'm excited about it. It's because the filmmaker behind it. It's the new Grudge. I've never been a fan of the Grudge.
Yeah,
I didn't
me
like the
neither.
Japanese versions. I didn't like the American versions. I actually never saw the third one, which I think might have been DTV. I think I've got it in a box.
I have it. I think the third one has more
Yeah.
appeal to me just because I like dodgy sequels.
Of course, yeah, exactly. And your expectations are certainly lowered when it's headed straight to home end. But this new Grudge, the director's Nicholas Page, who did, The Eyes of My Mother and
Yep.
Piercing. He's
Yep.
such an incredible stylist. Like, Eyes of My Mother, I think, is a remarkable film. Piercing kind of fell apart for me. I mean, it's based on source material. It's pretty, it sticks pretty closely to it. It's just a little anticlimactic, but style-wise, I think it was just magnificent to look at and
Yep.
brilliant performances. I'm hope for this is that he's really going to turn this thing around and make it his own. And judging by the trailers, it definitely looks that way. Like visually, it looks super
Yep.
striking. Like
Cool.
nothing you've sort of seen within that, remakes of J horror stuff. So I'm looking forward to that one.
It's more a curiosity factor than
Yeah,
anything.
it's a Kuro piece, and in fact, that also probably sits with the new Fantasy Island film.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I love the idea of taking like a 70s, early 80s television series that was beloved by many and turning it into a horror film because it just lends itself completely to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you
yeah.
see that woeful Peter Dinklage biopic of
I haven't seen it yet.
My Name Is Ave or whatever?
Yeah. It was a
HBO's
HBO production. I haven't seen it yet. No?
No.
No good?
It is awful.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
He
that's a
doesn't even
shame.
resemble the guy
No.
from, other than the fact that
Yeah.
he's a midget.
Yeah, I know.
Am I allowed to
yeah.
say that?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, like, he's doing pretty well for himself. I don't
Yeah.
think he'll be offended.
Vertically challenged.
Vertically challenged. But, oh no, that's disappointing. Yeah, I was hoping to check that out, but now that's kind of like, maybe if it's on the plane, I'll catch up with it. Another one that I saw recently that comes out in March next year, really excited about, is Military Wise, because I think you'll love it.
Yep.
It's what I kind of deem an old woman's movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of movie you can take your mum along to, your grandma along to. Everyone's going to have a riot of time. I loved it. I was listening to songs from the film because they, it's a military wives choir that they form whilst their husbands are away on, active duty, and so they find things to kind of keep their spirits up,
Yeah,
keep them
cool.
busy. And they do some great
I
songs.
like those kind of
Yeah,
films.
you're
They're
gonna
always
love
crowd
it. I
pleasers.
think you're going to love it, yeah.
Yeah.
You should take your mum along to see it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I like
really
that
good.
whole potato peel pie.
Yes,
You know,
Society.
the Guernsey. Yeah, that was a good film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My cohort, Ben Hellwig, at Monster Fest, absolutely loves that film.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, he's always eyeing it off when it's on sale. He's like, oh, I probably should get that.
He should have it
Pick
by now,
up.
damn
I
it.
know, I reckon he should too. Is there any others that are kind of...
No,
got you a
that's
bit
about
excited?
it.
Yeah.
I never really get too excited about films. I just like to take them as they come. But those
Yeah.
are the ones that really do
Yeah.
it for me. I think of all of those, maybe Ghostbusters the most.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be a crazy July because like the new Ryan Reynolds film comes out, which I can't remember the name. Something Guy, Free Guy.
Is that the Michael Bay one?
No, that one's the one. That's on Netflix now. Six Underground.
That's right. Of course
Yeah,
it
that
is.
one's
Of
gone
course
straight
it
to
is.
Netflix.
Oh, God,
yeah. No, this one's that Free Guy where
Yeah.
it's such a bizarre
Fantasy
cool concept.
looking.
Well, yeah, it's he is a bit character in a video game as
Yeah.
such. But then one day he kind of decides in a very Truman Show fashion, like, hang on, what if I just do something different?
Yes.
And then he becomes kind of the hero in someone else's
I've seen the
adventure.
poster and I've heard
Yeah.
the gossip, but I've not watched the trailer.
Trailer's utterly Ryan Reynolds
Okay,
doing
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds
But
super
I'm
charming.
getting a bit
hilarious.
tired of Ryan
I will
Reynolds.
never tire of Ryan Reynolds. I've got all the time in the world.
I
for him. He's my man crush.
I love Ryan Reynolds,
I got
but
all the time.
there's only so much Ryan Reynolds that I can
Yeah.
handle. I guess maybe only so much
Yeah.
in 1 year I can handle.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, I think this might be the only one he's got next year.
Okay, cool.
Possibly.
Is there another Pokemon?
I don't know. I enjoyed that
Yeah,
too.
that was good.
You didn't get to see much of Ryan Reynolds in that one, at least.
No, you got to hear a lot of him, but
You
that
did, you did.
that just fell out of my top 10.
That was
I liked
really
it a lot.
cool. It was like such an unexpected cool film.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those few things that you base on like game sort of source material and ends up being amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how true to the game it was, but God, it was good.
Well, it's taken that many forms
Yeah.
over the years.
Oh,
that,
God,
you know,
yeah,
I can
exactly.
do it at once, but
What can you do?
all right. Well, that pretty much wraps us up.
All right.
That's been a hefty episode,
It
mate.
has. It has.
That is it. That's the end of 2019 for
What a
us. So I
year.
just want to thank everyone for listening. It's
William
been
Roadley in particular, I want to thank him because I got to meet him at Monster Fest in Brisbane. He's such a lovely guy.
he's our number one fan.
He is a total firm supporter of everything we do. So thank you, William. We love you, mate.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone that's listened and commented. Please continue to comment and listen and like. And while that might be the end of us for this year, we are back next year with an all-new podcast. It's a whole different one. It's a weekly formatted show called Good Movie Monday. It's going to be half an hour every Monday morning. Listen to it throughout the week. You can comment. You can join in the discussion. And it's going to be everything that happens in the world of cinema.
Every week.
Every week.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Yes. So make sure you like us on the Facebook page, Good Movie Monday. I think that's about it for us.
That's it, man. Thank
All
you
right.
for a wonderful 2019.
Mate,
and
and-
I'll be seeing you in the cinema in 2020, my friend.
That's tacky.